Well, they keep asking if Movie Thoughts is back. Well, yeah, I'm back. I know Kung Fu. Welcome back. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Movie Thoughts. I'm your host, Dominic Tardamella, and that was the man himself, John Wick, Keanu fucking Reeves, the man, the myth, the legend, Neo. And yes, he knows I know Kung Fu. When did the Mongols rule China? That's it. That's the end of the podcast because I can't top that. If you don't know, that's from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. And guess what? We fucking love Keanu Reeves in this house, okay? Who doesn't love Keanu Reeves? You don't love Keanu Reeves, you could get the fuck out right now. Because he's a national treasure, right? Legendary. And welcome, as I said, to the Movie Thoughts Podcast. If this is the first time you're listening, I hope that introduction made you say, I'm going to listen to the rest of these episodes. Because this sounds like fun. It's a television commercial. Oh, the kid, they chase, the leprechaun chases the kids. Oh, you'll never get my pot of gold. Come on, what movie is that from? Come on, do I have to say it? You know, Austin Powers. Frau Farbishner. Patty O'Brien. All right, let me stop veering off course. As I said, welcome to the Movie Thoughts Podcast. This is what this podcast is. I don't focus. I drink on the job, but I'm actually drinking coffee, a nice hot cup of coffee. Sometimes it's beer. And I talk about movies. I give my thoughts about movies. So welcome back. If you've joined us, welcome new listeners. Today, obviously by the introduction, we are talking about John Wick Chapter 4. No other title, right? Isn't it weird? The titles are a little weird with John Wick now because it's John Wick, obviously. Then it's John Wick Chapter 2. Then it's John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum. And then it's John Wick Chapter 4. Nothing. Like, I would have maybe preferred something to go with it. Because now it's like, Parabellum's kind of like the black sheep. Like, you should have just called that one Chapter 3 and that's it. But whatever. That's my OCD. Speaking of OCD, I'm looking at these Blu-rays right now. And I don't know if you collect the stuff. And, like, I don't have a slipcover on the first John Wick, but I have a slipcover on the other two. That's making me sweat. That makes me sweat, stuff like that. The OCD is real. But yeah, the fourth installment in the John Wick franchise has released, long awaited, right? When was the last one? When was Parabellum? When was 2019. So here we are in 2023, and this movie finally comes out. You know, it kind of left on like a cliffhanger-ish thing, kind of like the other John Wicks do, right? 2 kind of did the same thing. Keanu is fucking back. He's back, baby. And we love him. It's good to see him. He looks exactly the same. He's wearing another black suit. He's kicking ass. He's maybe saying 3 lines of dialogue in this movie. I don't know, listen. I love Keanu. And I always have. He's been around. He's been a staple in my childhood, growing up and stuff like that. And the Matrix, obviously those Matrix movies, they were so huge at the time. And I still remember going to see those movies and, loving the first one, being very excited seeing the second one. And then they had the teaser for Revolutions and kind of being disappointed with Revolutions, right? But, and then they made that new one. Jesus fucking Christ, what'd they do? What the hell did they do to that new one? I mean, I own it. Yet again, OCD. I had to have it in the collection. I got it cheap, but I don't know. Maybe I'll rewatch it at some point. I got to rewatch The Matrix. I was going to say all 3 of them because the 4th one kind of doesn't exist. But yeah, I'll rewatch those. So welcome back to John Wick, the world of John Wick. Obviously, the killing, the brutal gun fu. So now, Chapter 4, I'm not going to get into spoilers right this minute. I will warn you, but I will, at some point, I think, delve into spoilers, because there's some stuff that should be talked about. Now, this movie is directed by Chad Stahelski, and I believe he did the last three. He's like a stunt coordinator, right? He did the last three. John Wick's as well. And so let's get this out of the way first. This movie is pretty fucking long, right? The John Wick franchise, they've all been 2-hour-ish, right? I mean, the last one, Parabellum, was 131 minutes, right? Now this one is 169 minutes. You know, so it's pretty fucking long, the movie. I would have seen it sooner had it not been this long. You know, and listen, I've talked about fucking Avatar. I went to go see that a couple times. I talk about 3-hour movies all the time. I love a good 3-hour movie. I like Babylon a lot. It's just that, like, when you got to go see a 3-hour movie, you got to kind of psych yourself up. So when I initially heard that John Wick Chapter 4 was going to be 3 hours, I'm not going to lie, I was like, do we really need a 3-hour John Wick movie? Because, I mean, listen, you can say that about anything. Do we need a 3-hour Avatar movie? That's, debatable. I think the length and the runtime of those movies works in its favor, but like I've talked about ad fucking nauseum on this podcast, 3-hour movies sometimes aren't necessary. I think some films become a little overindulgent with run times, and they should cut them down. So when I first heard that this was going to be that long, not that it didn't turn me off. I was still going to go fucking see John Wick Chapter 4 because I love all of what goes on in those movies. But it slowed me down. I would have went Thursday as I normally do. But did I work? What time? Yeah, I didn't want to lose sleep. I had to go to work. I didn't want to lose a lot of sleep. It was 3 hours. I kind of missed the run time, or the showing, rather, that would have been suitable for me to see. Because that's the thing, like a 3-hour movie, I'd rather go as early as possible. I'd rather go, to an early matinee, perhaps a morning showing. There's not like many morning showings anymore, I feel like. They kind of save those for the weekend and stuff like that, but I like to get out of the theater and there still be daylight. But now I saw this movie, and listen, did it need to be 3 hours? Let's get that out of the way. I still don't think it needed to be 3 hours. Did I like the movie? Yes, I did like it. And once the pace picks up, and this becomes the action film you always want, you want to watch, it is highly entertaining. Visually, it's fucking awesome. It's fucking stunning. There's some crazy shit they do with the cameras. There's some over-the-head shit that kind of looks like a video game, and fucking John Wick's got nunchaku at one point. He's swinging them around, right? And fucking, it's awesome. It's awesome. There's a little bit of slow in the beginning, where they're kind of filling you in. Obviously, we know what happened in the last one and stuff like that, but they're kind of getting some story elements out. But overall, I did like John Wick. I enjoyed it. I think it is, God, it's kind of, listen, light spoilers, and I'll get into spoilers a little bit later, but it's kind of got a feel of a final chapter, maybe, of a last John Wick. That's kind of, I'm surprised they didn't market it as John Wick 4, the final chapter, but it kind of has that feeling where it's kind of, they could close the story off. I know that there's going to be a spin-off with Ana de Armas, or whatever the hell her name is, from Knives Out, and that Marilyn Monroe movie that everybody was hating on, that I still didn't watch. And, they said that John Wick's going to be in it, pop up in it at some point. I think it's called like Ballerina or some shit, but that's cool. But this kind of has its, closing kind of chapter on this story. But we'll talk a little bit about that later. But it does start off a little bit slow. There's some new characters in here. Let's talk about the new characters, right? We got Bill Skarsgård popping up. Fucking Bill Skarsgård. That Skarsgård family, fucking awesome. They're a lot of fun. Every time you see one of them, whether it's the father or the fucking brother, Alexander Skarsgård, and then they got other brothers. I think they got younger brothers, I've heard, too, that are getting into acting, too. So it's like there's just a There's a ton of people there, right? Obviously, Keanu is back, and literally, as I joked before, like, doesn't have a lot of dialogue in this movie. All Keanu Reeves dialogue. I don't want to say, this is what I was trying to get at before. I don't want to say, I grew up with Keanu, I love Keanu. I think when I was younger, I'm going to admit it, when I was younger and more of a kid, like, I would kind of, like, joke around that he's kind of like a bad actor. And he's not a bad actor, but there's just something, and it's really, like, prominent in movies like this, too. Like, it's maybe some borderline overacting, right? He's saying lines. He's a little hammy with it. You know, it's a little overdone. But in this territory, it also does work, right? Like, how many times, and his delivery, he's just like, well, I'm going to kill them all. I'm coming after them all. They killed my dog. You know, like, hello, John. That was my Donnie Yen, by the way. Hello, Kane. Just if you've seen this movie, you know what I'm talking about. So yeah, that's my segue to fucking Donnie Yen. Love Donnie Yen, right? Obviously in a ton of martial arts movies. Pops up in more mainstream, you know, American kind of films, action films. Hasn't always had the best success rate with the films he's picked. He was in that fucking outlandish Triple X sequel, Vin Diesel. Oh, Triple X. It's my way of trying to have another franchise that isn't Fast and the Furious. And guess what? I'm gonna wear a big fur coat, and my fat potato head's gonna be all over this movie. And every girl in this movie is gonna want to have sex with me. Have you seen Triple X? Now, I'm not like a big Triple X guy, not even the first one. Like, I've seen it a couple times back in the day and stuff like that. But, like, if you watch that Return of Xander Cage shit, they just, like, try to make him almost like James Bond. Like, the girls, like, in a couple scenes, the girls are, like, fucking going crazy over him. It's like, nobody's going crazy over Vin Diesel. I mean, nobody's girl, guy, nobody. Maybe they are. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. But anyway, Donnie Yen was in that. See, I have no focus. There's no focus on this podcast. Just lost in my fucking thoughts. But anyway, Donnie Yen is in that movie, and that movie fucking sucked. But Donnie Yen was like the best part of that movie, because he's just a charismatic son of a bitch, and he's fucking doing his fucking martial arts, and he's fucking awesome. So he's in this movie, and he's great in it. I mean, is this the perfect, like, Donnie Yen, perfectly cast in this movie, right? An old kind of friend of John Wick, but then he's kind of seemingly made an enemy through forces of nature, if you will. But it's actually funny because he plays a blind guy. And I didn't even realize that in the trailer. Like, I knew he was in it, but I tried not to watch too many trailers. But I didn't realize he was a blind guy. And this is like the second thing that he's a blind guy with a stick fighting people off, because he was in fucking Rogue One doing that. Which, Rogue One, I love, great fucking Star Wars movie. Some would argue the best Disney era Star Wars movie. I mean, it's not, I wouldn't be against saying it. It's definitely up there. But, yeah, he plays that dude where he's like, I am one with the Force is with me. I am one with the Force is with me. So he's kind of like, and he's got the blue eyes and shit. They basically took that same character and put him in this movie. Donnie Yen's just playing the same character. He's cool, though, Donnie Yen. He's got a cool, like, approach. At one point, before he kicks a bunch of fucking people's asses, he's eating fucking noodles or something. And he's cool. He does it with style, okay? So, yeah, he was a good addition. I think him and Keanu worked well together. Obviously, you got returning cast. You got Ian McShane in there. You got Lance Reddick, who just passed away, unfortunately. You got Hiroyuki Sanada, who's great. He also popped up in Mortal Kombat. He was Scorpion, which the Mortal Kombat movie, I actually liked the new Mortal Kombat movie. I gotta say, like, it, I don't think it was like the greatest movie ever, but I thought it was a good foundation for a franchise. Whereas, like, especially what they did in that movie, where there's no actual tournament, they kind of just like fought and did shit and introduced characters. And now, like, hopefully in Mortal Kombat 2, you get the tournament, and you get fucking Johnny Cage and all that fun stuff, right? But anyway, Lawrence Fishburne returns. Kind of a small role, not really big. I was surprised that Halle Berry didn't pop up at all in this movie, but I guess, it wasn't necessary. She was good in the last one, though. I liked her and her dogs and stuff like that. Then you got fucking new addition, Clancy Brown. Who's a dude? Clancy Brown is a fucking dude. Obviously, you know him from, he's in a ton of movies, Clancy Brown. And he's been around forever. He's popped up in stuff forever, in the 90s. I mean, he's in Shawshank Redemption, the Starship Troopers. He's in, like, the Pet Sematary 2, which, like, doesn't really hold a candle to Pet Sematary 1, but, like, is a fun little, like, tale. I think it's set on, like, Halloween. He recently popped up in the Dexter New Blood revival kind of remake of the last season, which I actually liked. I don't know if fans of Dexter and stuff like that, but I actually liked that revival, and he was really good in that. He plays like a good bad guy, but lately he's been doing some other stuff too. Like, and I'm glad to see him. He does some voiceovers and animation and stuff like that too. But he's good. He was enjoyable in the small role. But yeah, as I said, Lance Reddick, rest in peace. He just died. Which is unfortunate, I don't even know how he died. I'm not going to get into that. Also, you got Scott Adkins, who is like pops up. He's he does like martial arts, kind of like action movies, some like straight to video stuff here and there. But I thought he was pretty good in this movie. You've seen him in the trailers. If you don't recognize him, he's like the heavy set guy with the gold teeth, and he plays a fun character in this movie. They kind of got him in like a fat suit, and he's doing his thing. It's not like the Brendan Fraser The Whale fat suit. And if you want to hear me sweat on a podcast, you can hear like audible sweat. You go listen to my Whale podcast when I watch that movie. But it's funny because you see him in the fat suit, and if you know this guy from martial arts movies, he's going to be like fighting. And he does. At one point, I thought they weren't going to fight, and I was like, that's kind of disappointing. But they did have a pretty good fight, and he's a fun character, honestly. I'd like to see more of him pop up, and hopefully that's like that gets him some more like mainstream kind of bigger movie roles, because he seems like a good actor. And especially like a character like that, he brought it to life. He made it humorous and stuff like that. Kind of like made a scene very suspenseful, what was going on. But yeah, overall, like John Wick, a little bit long. I think, is it necessary? There's a lot of fucking killing in this movie. As you come to know in a John Wick movie, it's like there's a lot of fucking violence. There's a lot of crazy, crazy shit. Like scenes where cars are fucking hitting everywhere. Everybody in a fight in the middle of a street. There's a fucking fight on a staircase. Anywhere they could have a fight that's creative, they have a fight. They're having fights in the rain. They're having fights in just whatever the fuck. Wherever. There's a fucking, towards the end of the movie, John Wick's tumbling downstairs at one point, and it was almost like, it just felt like a loop of him tumbling down the steps. Like, there's memes just waiting to be born from that, because he's just fucking guys falling down the steps over and over again. But yeah, I'll say that, overall, I did like this movie. I'm gonna get into spoilers. I'm gonna get into spoilers in a second, so I'll give you time to leave. I'll give you the do 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 do. All right, I'm done. I'm not humming anymore. But yeah, so spoilers. We're in the spoiler territory. Okay, stand back, leave if you don't want to be spoiled. I talked about John Wick. I talked about a minute ago. I said they should have called this John Wick: The Final Chapter. Friday the 13th, the final chapter. What happens in Friday the 13th? Why do they call it the final chapter? Because Jason dies, and now when he dies in everyone. Well, guess what? Fucking John Wick dies in this movie. Surprise. That's what I was kind of thinking about. Like, maybe that's why they didn't call it the final chapter, because they wanted to make it a surprise. I wasn't thinking about John Wick dying. The only thing I was thinking about John Wick dying was there's a scene when he says to Ian McShane's character about his gravestone, he's like, loving husband. And like, I was like, wait a minute, would they possibly kill John Wick? And it's funny because like the John Wick movies now have become such, they're so common, and it's happened as the fourth one now, but like, you're always expecting a sequel. And I kind of went into this, I knew about the spin-off they're working on, as I said earlier, but I kind of went into this like, all right, there's going to be a John Wick 5. And so I guess maybe they used that to their benefit, didn't call it the final chapter, didn't give it some, that final billing of like the final John Wick movie or anything like that, and they kill him off. I mean, they seemingly kill him off. You never see him in a casket or anything like that. I mean, they could, listen, if they want to dig this up, metaphorically and actually visually dig up John Wick's grave in a film, they could do it, because all you do is you see him fall over on the steps, and then you fade in the gravestone, and Lawrence Fishburne's there, and Ian McShane, and they're talking. He's like, do you want to take the red pill or the blue pill? Oh, wait, wrong movie. But so they could always bring him back. Listen, they could always say, like, hey, he faked his death, and he's living in Hawaii with a bunch of dogs. He's raising dogs. They could do it. Will they do it? I don't know. I mean, I personally am like, these are the kind of movies I'll always go see. Like, John Wick comes out, I'll always go see it. I was just talking about like the Screams the other day, whenever I did Chinese, I'm just reading a text as I said that. Whenever I reviewed Scream, I was talking about that franchise, and I was like, well, I'll always go see those movies. No matter what, when they come out with Scream, I'll go see them. But it's also like, I'm okay if they end it. I didn't love the last Halloween completely. That's a franchise that I'm good if they don't make another Halloween for a while. I'm good with it. If they never made another Halloween again, like, part of me maybe would have the urge, but like, we've kind of seen it all. And sometimes with franchises, that's how I feel. You got to kind of let it go after a certain point. I know in this day and age, they will keep something alive forever. And then they'll beat it to death, and then they'll bring it back a few years later, and then they'll reboot it, and then they'll kill it again, and then they'll reboot it again. We live in that time where, like, reboot, remake, reboot, sequel, a sequel to the original or something. It's always going to happen, right? But with John Wick, I'm good if this is the final John Wick. Like, if he's dead and buried, and they close that chapter, it's been a fun ride. I think, go out while you're on top too. These movies are, overall, everybody loves them. They're pretty well received. They're actually good movies. You watch them, they're fucking awesome. They're fucking the stunt shit that goes down in these movies is fucking insane. And as like an action film, as action films in general, they're fucking impressive. They're some of the best action films ever made, right? It doesn't rely on like CGI. It's like real fucking stuntmen beating the shit out of each other and throwing themselves downstairs and risking their life. Keanu Reeves is very involved. He's doing his martial arts training. He's like, I know Kung Fu. I'm just going to keep saying that, by the way. But, and he's doing his thing. So I do appreciate these films, but if it's the end, that's fine. It's good. Go out on top, right? Go out on top, do the spin-off, have them pop up in a sequence, which, if this is any indication, that's going to be set before this movie, right? Because he dies yet again. I don't know. I mean, it was kind of sad. It was kind of like, but it was kind of like, yeah, I accepted it. I accepted that the character's dead. I know they're supposed to do like a Continental television show at some point. It's going to be a spin-off, and maybe they'll have people in there. Maybe they'll have stories that are set before when John Wick's alive. Who knows? Hopefully John Wick, if he isn't dead, he lives happily ever after, and he never comes, he starts raising dogs, as I said, and doing his thing. Yeah. But what else happened in this movie? I mean, like, lot of falling down the steps. Once you see the movie, you'll know what I'm talking about. He fucking tumbles down those stairs. I just feel like, as far as the length thing, to talk about that again, like, you get to a point in this movie where it's like, there's so much killing, and it's not boring. It goes by, it's got a pretty good pace. Like, it doesn't, get boring. I'd say the maybe the most, the slowest parts are maybe like the very beginning when they're getting back into the world. But the movie doesn't really slow down too much, but it does get to a point, at least for me, where it was like towards the end, or setting up the ending and what the ending is going to be. They're going to have a fucking duel like it's the old Wild West. And then it was like another 45 minutes on top of that of just like, there's no other way to describe it but like relentless. Like it's like the fighting and the killing is relentless. And that's obviously what you come to see when you're going to see a John Wick movie. But at certain times I was like, okay, we could close it off now. Just when you think it's like almost over, it's like, all right, he's gonna kill another 100 guys. All right, I'll take it. It's fine. It works. Some cool music too while he's beating up people. They're playing fucking Paint It Black and shit like that. It all works. I like all the shit in that world too. Everybody's fucking obviously the price on his head keeps going up. I love this too, just the endless amount of hitmen and killers that are coming seemingly out of the sky. They're waiting for him on staircases. They're waiting for him in cars. They're hitting him with cars. This is amazing. It's chaotic, but 4 is enough, I think. I think 4 is a good number, right? Especially the way it ended here. I think it would only tarnish it to bring him back and be like, all right, he's alive. He's going to come back one more time. This story, you watch the first John Wick before there was any sequels. You could watch it alone. It's fine. But then you watch the second John Wick, it ups the ante in the story, it gets into the mythology of the world a little bit more, and then it leaves on a cliffhanger, right, where everybody's after him, then everybody's after him in part 3, and it all, like, evolved. I think the story works the way it continued through the 4 films, where it, like, left you wanting more, and now this one kind of closes it off in a good way, right? He's dead. That's the best way to kind of end it, because he's never going to be... He's at peace. John Wick is at peace. There's a dog in this movie. It's not John Wick's dog. It's another character's dog. This guy that calls himself Nobody. I like that character, too. He was good. And he's kind of like half on his side, half not. He's doing his own thing. But enjoyable movie. I would definitely recommend John Wick. I would be prepared, though, with the 3-hour runtime. You definitely got to, brace yourself for that. You might have to take a bathroom break or 2. I'm just reading up. So this was supposed to come out... Oh, I didn't even realize this was supposed to come out... I should have known this. It was supposed to come out May 21st, 2021. But because of the COVID shit, obviously COVID fucked up everything. I think we're finally back, though. Like, not to jinx it. I don't know. I don't want to fucking jinx everything. But, like, especially with movies. Because... there was a funny time, COVID happened, fucking ruined everybody's fun. Movie theaters shut down, hurt movie theaters. Then there was that weird time when movie theaters first opened again, and, like, nothing, like, super great was coming out. It was, like, New Mutants, and, like, fucking that movie sucked. And, like, a couple other movies. And I remember I would go, and I'd wear the fucking mask, and I'd see movies. Then there was also a strange time, because then you got into that time where it was... like, constantly when movies are coming out in theaters, then you got a good amount of movies coming out on Blu-ray. So, once movies didn't come out in theaters for a while, then nothing was coming out on fucking Blu-ray. And it was like this miserable fucking time of like, where's all the movies, right? And then they were holding back stuff. Okay, we're releasing this then, we're releasing that then. Top Gun and everything. And then now it's kind of like flowing again, right? We got good movies out. We got good movies coming back on Blu-ray when they're getting released after being in theaters. Fucking Top Gun rocked the world. Avatar 2 rocked the world. A lot of movies are successful nowadays. They're making a lot of money. People are always going to talk that shit about movies. Oh, movie theaters are dying. And so I think, my personal opinion, I think that movie theaters will always be around. I think the amount of movies, might change, but, like, there's going to be those big movies that everybody goes out and sees. But you got to kind of force people, just like, Top Gun Maverick did. Because Tom Cruise, like, we're not fucking going on. He's like, we're not going on streaming. We're not going on streaming. Show me the money, right? And literally show me the money, come into the fucking theater. But that was smart. because he kind of like, we're not going, same day streaming. You got to come to a theater to see this, because we didn't fucking get in jets, and fucking Miles Teller didn't fucking hang upside down and throw up in a fucking jet and, have panic attacks, and the cast, I put these people through torture. I didn't fucking, Tom Cruise didn't fly a jet into space or anything like that, so you could see this on your fucking phone, on a streaming network. No, you're going to come into a fucking theater. And we shot it with IMAX cameras, so you're not going to fucking come in and watch it on a fucking smallest screen possible. You're going to watch it in the biggest screen possible. You're going to come there, you're going to hear fucking Highway to the Danger Zone, right, by Kenny Loggins, and you're going to be transported back to 1980s. And that's what he did, and he delivered on that promise, and you got to respect that. You got to respect Tom Cruise and the gang. I don't know, I just had to share that, right? I just had to share my thoughts on that, but because those movies like that, they really did... help theaters a lot getting back into the swing of things. Big movies like that, obviously Spider-Man and stuff like that was a big one. Those big tentpole movies, No Way Home, I'm talking about. So, yeah, we're in a good time. We're in a good place. Movies are coming, there is a playlist, and there is a place for movies that go streaming. I think they've smartened up with it, though. Now is like a little bit of a window. Some movies come like a month after, and that's fine. I get it. I think it is hurting some movies, though, because I think it'll be like when a movie's going to be streaming in a month, if you really don't want to go out and see it, you might not. I do, like, for me, I've been meaning to see Shazam 2. I really like Shazam 1. I own it. I think it's a movie that doesn't get talked about enough. It's a fun little superhero movie. It's got a lot of heart. Everybody's good in that movie, and I want to see the sequel. I haven't gone. I didn't get a chance. Now John Wick came out. This is why I try to stay like on top of seeing movies, because before you know it, this movie comes out. Then next week that movie comes out. And then it's like I'll never see anything. So I try to just go and see the newest movie. That way when the next one comes out, I'm ready to go. But now like Shazam kind of fell through the cracks. I'm going to try to see it at some point. But that's coming from a fan of the original. And I know it's going to be on like streaming, like definitely in a month. So it's like to some degree I'm going to be able to rent it or whatever. So I'm kind of like, maybe I'll watch it then. We'll see. Sorry, Shazam. I know it's not making a lot of money, but I do want to see it. I'll try to give it some money when it gets on Blu-ray and stuff like that. But yeah, John Wick, Chapter 4. What'd you think? Did you enjoy it? Do you want to see more Keanu Reeves? Is Keanu Reeves a bad actor? I don't think so. By being hard on Keanu Reeves, maybe a little bit. But he's a fun actor. He's fun. He's just fun. He's a good guy. If this is the first time you listen to the podcast, thank you for listening. Thank you for joining me. Check me out on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Dom Solo Reels. I post some stuff from the TikToks, from the what the fuck am I saying? I post some stuff from the podcast. I also post some funny videos from time to time, talk about movies and shit like that. Subscribe and do all that fun stuff. You can listen on Spotify, iTunes, share and like and all that shit. I don't know. That's the end of the podcast. Everybody have a good night.